Welcome back to Good Moms, Bad Choices.
I'm Erica.
And I'm Milah.
Happy hump day, bitch.
Happy hump day, ho. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying the month of February. Love is in the air. Loving thyself is in the air.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us this February, where the theme for February is for the love of self, because we all know the most important love that we can have is the one for ourselves.
Amen. Amen.
How's it going? How's your week going?
My week is good. I've just been chilling, being a mom, being fine as fuck. You know, the typical shit that I do every day. My existence is a gift. So that's it.
I feel you. Same. I'm just being fine, doing good dance moves. You know,
you are such a great dancer.
Thank you.
I love the way you dance.
Thank you. You know, just cooking meals because I'm also good at that, and just trying to be my best self and make my bed and shit.
Well, I love that for you.
Thanks.
You know, making your bed is really crucial.
I'm usually getting to it. Sometimes I'm not. It's like between the bed and the dishes. I'm just working on being a better adult. I've really realized my therapist and I have really been working on reparenting myself, which is really difficult when you're a real parent and you're parenting someone else. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work, a lot of parenting happening. And part of that is giving myself chores, and sometimes they get done, sometimes they don't. I think a part of loving myself is also just really, I've been focusing on when the shit doesn't get done. I think I wrote a note. This was so important last night when I couldn't sleep. I was like, the things I write in my phone that I think are important, and then I go back, I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? I was like, discipline. Wait, oh my God, where is it? I must see what I wrote. Reparenting and mothering myself simultaneously may require the most commitment, discipline, and gentleness.
Amen.
Why am I writing this in the middle of the night? I have to write this down.
Because you need to remind yourself.
Yeah, because that's what I've been doing. So I'm trying to be gentle with myself, but also discipline, which, it's difficult.
I see it.
Thanks.
I feel it. And you're glowing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. By the time this actually comes out, we'll be topless and titties out in Costa Rica, prancing in the jungles. So I'll definitely be looking fine in the jungle.
Yeah, so if you're not following us on Instagram and only listening to our sexy voices, you should definitely go follow us at goodmoms_bad choices, because there's definitely going to be a lot of nudity in our close friends if Instagram doesn't hate us and delete our account. If not, then maybe we'll start an OnlyFans in Costa Rica. I don't know.
I know. I was thinking that there's this new Playmate. I don't know.
The Playboy
OnlyFans. I don't know how you call it, but King Noir and Setting Jasmine are on there, and I was like, I think I missed the OnlyFans wave, but I think that
you can get on this one.
I think I can get on this one. Yeah. That's called Centerfold. I'm like, is this my calling? Do I need to do yoga naked on Centerfold? Is that even an option? I don't know.
I think it is. I think anything's an option.
Oh God, I really do hope I hope we start OnlyFans while we're in Costa Rica. My dream. Not really, but kind of. You know what it is? I was thinking about my nudity, and I was looking at my own page, and I was like, wow, I am naked a lot on here. It's true. 80% of my pictures are naked. And I was like, God, those niggas who are talking shit to me weren't lying. And then I was thinking, why? Why do I need a lot of attention? I was like, no, bitch, you're just generally naked. And so if you take a picture, you're going to be naked. All your pictures are naked because you'd be naked.
Yeah.
So, it's always a battle, just being your true self, titties out and et cetera, which brings me to our guest today.
Oh, I like that transition.
Thank you. Actually, my favorite titties out mom on Instagram is here with us again is there a third time or second time?
Second. And we had her on. She came in and hung out with us on
Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's our second time. Oh my God, having Baeleche here with us. Hi,
AKA Bree.
AKA Bree, and today it's very special because we're also joined by her husband Daniel.
Yeah, supposedly husband.
The leches are here.
The leches are in the building.
So we had Bree on. God, it was like the first year of podcasting, I think. And she kind of shared what it was like to be in an open marriage with her husband and the process of that. And
at that time they had one child, and I think shortly after that she got pregnant again. And Daniel's putting it down. Daniel's putting it down over there.
1, 2 out.
All right, we'll see.
And we've kind of you know, me and Erica, if you haven't noticed, are very nosy bitches, and we'll keep up with your life and all your business. And so we've been keeping up with you.
I love that.
And all your business. I know we like touched some bases last time we had the Zoom. I have so many questions because I know, like, okay, just to catch you up on Bae's status of her open marriage, you know, she was really like out there. She was dating mostly. It was like Daniel was having a hard time. He wasn't like finding anyone in the dating apps. And then update, Daniel had a woman. And not only was Daniel had a woman, you know, like I also follow you on Instagram where I also stalk you, but you know, I remember you expressing that the one, I don't know if it's the same woman now, you guys can like tell me, but she was like, the crazy thing is the woman that he found kind of looks like me. She's like artsy like me. Like I was like, God, can't you beat someone different? Right? When you're telling me that, and you're like, but you kind of love her. So, and then I think I looked recently, and then you had do you have somebody too?
Define somebody.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know, I think it's, for me, like I really kind of took a break with mothering. Like I think I really underestimated how much I would love being a mom to babies, and like how much I would be okay with my non-monogamy not being I don't know, so active. It has been active, it just hasn't been so active. So for me, I'm kind of for 2022, I'm actually thinking about like, okay, what kind of relationships am I seeking? Because for us, we don't necessarily identify as polyamorous. So what that means for me is like, I don't have to love everybody that I'm seeing. Like my non-monogamy can definitely be more casual, just depending on what feels right for me in the season.
Well, you said for you, it's shifted a lot to more kind of virtual forms of it.
Yeah, I think my
virtual. That's such an old person thing to say. Virtual,
old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of my non-monogamy since I've had babies has like existed via like texting, which has been really fun. And then only recently, actually, you know, I'm more hetero than I want to be. That's just a sad. I think that most women who are pretty hetero feel this way. It's just like, why do I have to be
Me? I'm one of them.
Right?
I feel you.
So like I
what? Girl.
What? It's true.
You're more hetero than you want to be?
Yeah, I would like to be a little more lesbian because men get on my nerves.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Men are kind of, I mean, no offense, Daniel. I don't know. It's not you.
No, so like you find one good one, and the chances of like finding a second one that you really like enough to like to bae up is challenging.
And then the first good one you thought you found
ended up not being that
not
good.
so good. Not so good, it turns out.
Oh, really?
Oh.
I don't know. You can speak more about that in a minute if you want.
No.
But where I'm at
I
now,
probably will.
Yeah, you probably
on accident.
But where I'm at now is I did start dating someone at the end of the year where there feels like there's some potential there, and I'm like, oh, am I ready for like another boyfriend?
You're saying last year or this year?
At the end of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's still like ramping up right now. Like it's pretty new, and his name is also Daniel. So that's
Daniel and Daniel.
I know.
Yeah, and he's also Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where my non-monogamy is at right now. Otherwise, like I have play partners, one in particular, but it hasn't been like super active. I've had a lot of like really good first dates, but it's never good enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm just like, my time is precious right now. Like that was a good date, but
not good enough.
Yeah. Do I really want to do this again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I've been. And Daniel's actually enjoyed a more active season of non-monogamy because I've just like really liked being home with the kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah. It's been more that it started over the summer feeling like a little bit more of a role reversal in that way. But most of my, like, I had like a couple of different connections that I was kind of cultivating throughout the fall that have sort of like, some of them have kind of turned pages. Like some of them weren't really sustainable, how they were kind of unfolding in the moment. So, you know, and now I'm kind of back with like, not a completely blank slate, but with a little bit more kind of armed with a little bit more self-knowledge and armed with a little bit more of like, the daunting task of really figuring out what it is that I want and what it is that I'm looking for. So, yeah, there's that.
Oh, I have so many questions.
Well, before we get into all the questions, I think we've really jumped in, and I'm sure people are like, wait, hold up.
Okay, sorry.
Who are they? What is going on?
Yeah, sorry.
How? No. It's good. I mean, that's just because like we know you guys and we can have this conversation. But if you guys don't like, let me give you a little backstory on Bae and Daniel. I mean, or they can. But we met Bae over the internet.
Yeah.
And Bae and Daniel have been in a non-monogamous open marriage for how long?
8 years.
It
But
depends.
married. We've been married for 8, but we were open before we were married even. So we've been open for basically the duration of our whole relationship, which has been about 12 years now.
Yeah. Not always with like the label or the title on it, but like going back and examining the way in which we were doing things in those first couple of years. It did have like that spirit of openness to it.
And was this your first open relationship?
Oh, yeah.
Both of them, right? I remember.
And we were so young. We were only 21.
Oh yeah,
Babies.
I remember Bae telling us that you met Daniel when you were in another relationship, and you loved the guy, but you also loved Daniel,
Yeah.
and you had always cheated, like in
Yeah.
high school,
Right, I remember
Yeah.
saying.
and you were like, you didn't understand why, like there's this huge label of being a cheater when you can just love multiple people.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of like where that thought began, right? And I just want to confirm because I said this, and Erica's like, "Are you sure you guys met at Christian college?" Right?
We did.
Oh, yeah.
I told you.
We did.
They
met at a
We
Christian
did meet at
college.
a Christian college.
We did.
We're very different people.
I try not to lead with that in my bio.
Which we try.
I bury
We have
that
tried
on
to
my
bury
resume
that.
as deeply as possible.
Leave it for me to
But-
dig it up.
Did you guys graduate?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so beautiful, Christian college love.
Wait, it is.
Oh my
It's
God, they gotta
Christian
bring you
college.
back.
You'll never bring them back.
No, never. They will not be putting us in like the alumni magazine.
They will not.
They should. Shit.
Well, before we started this episode, we always like to pull a card, and did Daniel did
Yeah,
you
I
pull
did
this
it.
card?
Yeah.
Daniel was saying that he always pulled swords, and of course he did. This is not reversed. Like
It is not.
Your biggest
It is
fear.
not.
So my love, my tarot queen.
Hello, it's
Can you
me.
tell us what card Daniel pulled, my love?
So today we've pulled the Four of Swords, and we pulled from the Mahogany deck that we've been using by fellow mama. So check that out. And basically the Four of Swords says, it tells you to rest before you take on the next challenge. You have reached an important first milestone and must recharge your energy before the next phase begins. So you're refreshed and ready to go.
That feels accurate.
Right? You just said that. You're kind of
feels
like
accurate.
figuring out what's happening over there.
Yeah.
Weighing. Even if you are highly productive and driven, take time out from your busy schedule to restore your energy and heal the body and the mind. Constant stress and tension will break even the hardest and most resilient of people, but brief periods of rest enable you to refresh your energy, concentrate, and focus so that you are ready for the next challenge. If you've been going through tough times recently, such as a trauma or breakup or departure from a relationship or family problems, financial or health worries, stress or conflict, then the Four of Swords comes as a sign to take a step back and regain perspective. Take a day off of work, travel to a new destination, or spend time with your loved ones. Whatever you need to do to take a break, now is the time to make decisions.
Okay, Daniel.
Yeah. That's why I haven't been doing shit.
Check it in.
Explains everything.
It's not even true.
Yeah, the swords usually deal with intellect and decision making and those type of things. So that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of that. I think you're definitely in a period of transition, like personally, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I sign off on that. Yeah.
And it mentioned breakup, which is also
Yeah, I mean that's true, but like I mean mostly what the entire fall and the entire season of really like exploring a little bit more depth in my connections and in my relationships was like it really illuminated a lot about I don't know, my deepest sort of like boss level shit that I've got to conquer. So I don't know. It ended up being a lot of lessons about like in the context of that, of like a relationship, but ultimately like it kind of transferred itself to really revealing a lot to me about myself.
which
Some
is
of
one
it,
of the things
some
we
of
like
it,
about non-monogamy.
some of it good, some of it not so good. But all, I don't know, in the service of being better and getting better.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, sorry, smoking weed. I think that people underestimate how much different relationships, even in friendships, actually can be a reflection for yourself.
Entirely.
And
You
like,
probably see me talk about that.
you know, like the more you interact with different people, different versions of yourself come up, and different like lessons, and then you're like, damn, who am I? This is what I want, like, because now you've met someone new, and it's kind of triggered these different things about yourself, you know. And like, so often in traditional monogamous relationships, not that I'm downing traditional monogamous relationships,
Works for some people.
it works for some people.
It works for some people.
But sometimes, like, maybe I don't want to say that you stunt your
limited your
you're stunted your growth.
You do.
But because
It really depends on how people conduct their monogamy, but the vast majority of folks conduct their monogamy in a way that, yes, it does stunt.
Well, I remember
because-
on our episode you were talking about limiting your love. Like if I asked Daniel to limit his love with this other person, then ultimately that affects me and how he shows up for me. And like limit, I mean, it comes up in so many ways, like limiting, you know, how many people, whatever, whether you're monogamous or not, but like even your capacity to love. You don't have to be sexually active with someone
to have an intimate relationship.
But I think often, even in monogamy, we close off even that.
Like, who are you talking to her?
To the other opposite
It
sex.
becomes
which-
threatening.
Everything
It becomes
becomes
threatening.
threat. Yeah.
It becomes threatening, which is toxic monogamy culture. It's not how everyone does monogamy, but it is how most people do it. And that's one of the things that's most unappealing about it for me is like, I personally like really value growth, and I want to keep changing throughout this one life that I maybe have on the earth. I don't want to stop just because I got married when we were in our early 20s, and non-monogamy has been a huge, maybe the biggest part besides motherhood of my like personal growth journey.
Yeah, and I think that the way that we first approached non-monogamy for us, it wasn't like, I mean, yeah, the sex with other people is appealing, right? That's kind of why you sign up for it in some ways.
Maybe
but
that's why you signed up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I signed up for it.
Don't lie.
I know. I was like, wait, maybe that's why I
stems-
signed up for it.
It also stemmed from seeing and feeling kind of like the wrongness of being like, okay, being at a wedding and feel like the geometry of the dance floor kind of get defined by like couples who are not just like sexually monogamous, but like even like will shut off like
Energetically.
the 12 energetically, like the 12 steps, or that's not the best number for it, but like the 13 steps that lead up to having sex with somebody,
Right.
or something
Like me dancing
even-
with you doesn't mean immediately you're putting your dick in me.
Yes,
Like
it does.
we're dancing and sharing energy. But like people like when you were in a relationship,
You're like,
with
oh, I don't
someone-
want to.
we can't. Oh no, we can't dance with anyone else at the party.
I think most people voluntarily kind of surrender that.
Right. It's not
because
even
that's
something
that's kind of
explicitly
the-
said.
Yeah, it's kind of the cultural expectation that like monogamy also entails all of these other hyper rigid forms of like self-control or self-policing or unavailability. Like
Yeah,
all of
unavailability
these
is a good
forms
word
of
for it.
unavailability to people in the world around you.
And then it's marketed as, I want to make you comfortable. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. It's always marketed that way. Like, well, don't you want to make me comfortable?
Well, they market both sexes this different ways too. Like men are like these men that can't help themselves, so you don't approach a man and like be appealing, dance with him, because he'll automatically assume he wants to sleep with you, which I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a 50-50 thing there. And then any woman that would approach a man who's clearly here with another woman in joy and dance must be a hoe.
And conversation,
For sure.
right.
Like, you know, it's just like we can't just all enjoy ourselves.
Exactly.
And not want to have sex. But also, maybe.
I mean, I've literally seen men like, oh my God, this happened to us. We were at a fucking wedding, and we were asked to move some chairs. And they were big ass chairs, and it was in the desert. It was a long distance. Lots of men, me and this bitch, carrying 3 stacked chairs in heels in the dirt. Men. They were with women. Not one man.
See, that's a perfect example.
Not one man was like, hey, let me help you. No, like, if my bitch is not about to cuss me out for helping this bitch. They watched us carry those motherfucking chairs, yo. I was like, the fucking audacity. I was like, if that was my man, I would be fucking embarrassed.
I was fucking pissed. I was pissed. I was like, what kind a fucking man. They see us with these stilettos in this dirt.
They looked scared as hell. They didn't look in our direction, okay? They held their bitches' hands and they didn't look in our direction.
Their bitches didn't say shit.
Their bitches didn't say shit.
I would have been like, babe, go help her. What the fuck are you doing?
They're like, you're mine. You better
right,
not look at
they're
that bitch. I don't care if she's struggling. I don't care if she falls.
No, I think that's a good example. And like another thing for us is just how it breaks down community. Like monogamy breaks down community. And that's
you can't see like a basic human need of carrying multiple heavy chairs and stilettos across. Like it's a basic, it's a situation where there's a basic human need there, right? And won't even recognize it.
Right.
It's true. I mean, I think it does. It's like it does break down like that community effort, the community help, that it's just like we're all in it together and we all need help, and like we all need love. We all can experience each other's different versions of love, like I never really thought about it that way, but that's really interesting.
I know we had briefly discussed that this episode was going to be like the 5 ways to successfully open your marriage, or like know if it's time. And I think maybe that's step 1. Do you have a need to like broaden your community and continue to grow as an individual? Maybe that's something that applies to you and it's time. That's how you know, like, do we both have the same goal in mind to grow in this way and to like make our community broad and comfortable in this way? Because I was talking about it, for us it makes so much fucking sense, right? Like, love thy neighbor. Show up, like you could, like I'm a very intimate person in that way. Like I like to cuddle people. Like I'll be it's nothing. It doesn't necessarily have to. For me, it is intimate, but it's friendly. Like we're getting close. Like I've even in my friendships, I've always said this. Like I want my man to be able to like be a protector of my friends too. Like if my friend comes and gets in the bed with us, like cuddle us.
Yeah.
Like I want to feel that love and also feel the trust, like, and I think when people put all this pressure, like that's my man. I don't care if you're my friend. It's like, bitch, I'm your friend. So, right? Like you don't think I'm gonna run off into the sunset with your man? Like I hope not, but like
she does. Of course she does. That's exactly why.
I don't care if you're my friend.
Yeah, actually.
And that's always been so weird to me.
Totally.
And obviously for some people listening and for a lot of my friends, they're like, bitch, you're weird and get the fuck away from my nigga. And please don't take your titties out. And for me, it's just like intimacy. And like, I want you to spend time with my friends and get to know them and like them and have a personal relationship because it's my friend. And I think that they're cool and I think that you're cool. And I think that makes sense, Whereas like I've been in relationships and known people for years, even with, and they're like, why are you talking to him? Why are you getting, I'm like, asking about his grandma. What the fuck? Like,
yeah. And I think you're hitting on another reason that we really love non-monogamy is it forces you to inquire a little more deeply. Like, why do you feel those things? So like for your friends, like, why do you feel so threatened by me? I don't know, having my tits out in front of your, that's a little extreme. But like what non-monogamy forces
extreme.
You to do is like
it's actually totally normal. That's one of the problems.
It's not extreme.
Not for me.
Let's back it up. Conversation. Like why can't I have a conversation with your husband without you there? Like why does that actually bother you? Like what is the deeper reason? And non-monogamy forces you to grapple with those questions and to do that deep work that you wouldn't have to do otherwise. It's so true. Hard.
Some people don't want to do it though. That's the reason.
Well,
that's the exact reason
Exactly.
why. It's like, ooh, I don't fucking want to.
I don't care.
It's because I shouldn't have to.
I don't care.
If you're mine, I shouldn't have to think about why. Like it's not about why I feel uncomfortable. It's that why your tits have to be out. Like it's you that you're the problem, not me. And like that's just a lot of people don't want to dissect jealousy. And like, because it's never jealousy. It's something else.
It's an underlying.
It's an underlying thing. There's not, you're just not just jealous. Like I have this happened to me this week. I have a lover, Orlando, and he is in New York, like living his best life, and he's always like checking and telling me things. And the other day, and he's also has a podcast. So the other day I was scrolling. And he was talking. One of his people that he has a relationship with also has a podcast. And I'm scrolling past her podcast, and I see her talking about a sexual encounter, and I'm like, waiting to see if she's gonna say who it is.
Yeah.
And then she does, and then I was annoyed. I was like, I'm annoyed. And I was like, I'm going to have to check in with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to figure out why I'm so annoyed. I'm like, first of all, this is what I do as a podcaster. And I'm like, this is what anyone dating me has to deal with. And I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Don't date you. Check. What you're asking people for, you can't handle. Okay, perfect. But I was like,
That's one of your late night notes in your phone.
Right.
right.
I would
okay.
love to scroll through your notes.
Ow, I just hit my head so hard.
We should do an episode where we scroll through our notes.
That would be good.
Oh my God, it's so deep in there. It's so emo. There's so much deep,
That's
dark
your ear
poetry.
cancer, right?
Yeah.
I remember that one.
If so, it's so emo. But I texted him. I was like, I don't know. I just wanted to check in with myself. I was like, I'm just telling you, not that it's an issue. It's me. It's a me issue. But I was thinking, I'm happy to have this relationship where I can address myself and then address it out loud to someone else, and then together we could work through what was the problem. Where is the issue lying? And like the more you explore and sit in the feeling of like, oh, that annoyed me, because immediately I was like, But
how do you guys work through jealousy? Like, is that something that you guys encounter a lot? Is it like throughout the years? Does it get better over time, or like?
I think yes and no. The thing that's interesting for me about it is that every connection will potentially like trigger different things for you. Like each person that your partner dates, just depending on who they are. And then also depending on where you're at, you know, how you're doing personally, maybe it'll trigger you more or less. Or what you got going on. If I'm dating, you know, somebody else and it feels like kind of even, there's a lot of factors. So that's been my experience with it throughout time.
Yeah. I mean, I think for myself, I've definitely gone through like seasons where I engage it more readily, like the jealousy, and want to know kind of what's under it. I'll also go through seasons of like total avoidance mode with it, like or even like denial of jealousy, you know, because it's easier to just kind of, you know, say that you don't feel jealous or that you don't experience it, but really like what you're doing is kind of numbing yourself. And so like, and then that needs working through. And so I kind of will oscillate back and forth between those seasons. And sometimes when you think you're confronting jealousy in a real and authentic way, actually you take a better assessment of it and you're like, no, I think I was not really facing what it was making me feel most times.
And is it usually it's usually, like you said, what you're facing is something like within you, it has nothing to do with her, right?
Yeah.
So would you say that non-monogamy also has like kind of helped you tap into certain parts that you need to heal within yourself, right?
100%.
I'll say 1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has kind of been on our minds a lot lately on the back of Daniel's last relationship, which you kind of touched on earlier. I think it was his most intense relationship that he's experienced since we've been open. So,
Yeah.
right?
or that I've allowed myself to experience.
Yeah. So that was just it was just really rich with a lot of learning for both of us, because I'm like, whoa, you really like this person. Like, this hasn't happened before. Like, because he'll go on his dates and he'll have a good time. But, like, this is the first person where I was like, oh, you really like her. Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is awesome. I'm so happy for you. So I was, and I think it was so good for us, though, because it flipped the script on like what we've been mostly dealing with, because I've had deeper connections in the past than he has. So we've kind of been on the opposite side prior. And so it was really good to both get to see the other side, where I'm like, whoa, you had to deal with this. This is hard. Like, my feelings are a little hurt. Like, I'm having to deal, you dealt with this? Like, oh my God, thank you. And then for him, like, whoa, you had to navigate like two different people's feelings and your own. Like, that's really hard.
and decide what it is you feel.
And so it was really, this latest relationship for us, I think, taught us the most that any has so far, or at least in a while.
Yeah, but ultimately, for me, most of those lessons are about myself, you know? And like, I mean, I think one of the things that being non-monogamous and like reaching these deeper levels of it with one another has really taught me is, I think like I could have gone through like I might have been able to go through a lifelong monogamous lesson, just like, or relationship, just feeling content and satisfied and assured of my good guyness, you know? And like feeling good about the ways in which I question patriarchy, feeling good about the ways in which like I felt myself to be a feminist. But like when you really put yourself kind of on the line like this and allow yourself to encounter those feelings of jealousy and what's actually underneath them, like actually underneath them, is that like a desire to control? Like, you know, is this a fear of like letting you express like your fullest and most authentic part of yourself? You know, like I guess it's really made clear for me how deep the imprint of like toxic masculinity and misogyny and all of that stuff is. And yeah, that's not like a particularly fun thing to say, but
I mean, I
That's
think
good.
Deep. I'm telling you, we got deep.
no,
I mean, but yeah, after all that.
I think too, I mean, obviously, I mean, even talking about toxic masculinity, I mean, some men, some look at you and are like, oh my God, this is the shit. Like, you're a guy and your wife lets you fuck other girls.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, and that's the
fucking score, man.
Yeah,
And then they like, what, does she fuck other guys?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And they're like,
Yeah. You're not the man.
like, oh no, what kind of wife is she?
What kind of husband? Yeah, why are you gonna allow that?
You know, it's like, it's because I think men, this is what at least what I've hear from men, and I think women are this way too in ways, but they're such visual creatures. So like when they think about like, you know, sex, they immediately visualize it, and the visual of it, of a woman possibly like
Receiving somebody else's intimacy is just like the ultimate ego kill for a man. And basically what we've learned and been conditioned to believe like what the manhood is, you know, like that they control and that you're exclusive to them. And even in that, me scrolling, I was like, I wanted something exclusive, and I'm like, oh my God, I've heard men say this to me. I was like literally saying shit, and I was like, I just want you to be like selective and like, I'm like, I was like trying to host shame him. I'm like, I'm trying to host shame you. Just
let me host shame you.
Take it. I'm like, God, I hate how I sound.
That's so good for you.
I know.
So good for you.
I feel like, and I even like last year, we started hanging out last year, and I was jealous. He had another lover at that time, and it was a rift in their relationship because I don't think anyone else had come along, and I was experiencing jealousy about certain things, but I'm the type like Daniel. I'm too cool to acknowledge it. I don't care. And in fact, like in my mind, I care, but I'm like, oh, it's cool. I'm just gonna get somebody. Like, it's cool. Like, I don't really care that much because I don't really care like about them. It's not that serious. I knew even I was like in love 5 minutes ago. But I can see how much I've grown in just a year, even in like a long distance like friendship that I could just call you and be like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I was really triggered. I forgot to mention how triggered I was. He's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I'm working through it.
I know. I don't know how to shut the fuck up about my feelings to the people that I love. It's so annoying. And like, I don't know. I think I'm not non-monogamous per se. I don't really know what I am because I'm not in a relationship right now. But I think that just being open to talking to the people that you love and your partners about how you're feeling, especially especially when you are together, like it becomes like you can't even keep things in anymore. I mean, I'm sure like you guys, you know, share a lot. And I mean, even talking about the situation that kind of opened you guys up and like, you know, allowed you to have to face certain things and you to face certain things. I think a lot of people, like, their questions why people open up the relationships. It's like, well, when you open up a relationship, you open up a can of worms and inevitably, like, you open up the opportunity or the possibility that your partner could potentially leave you, right? Like, they might experience unlock some other version of love that they're ready to go deep in. And like, you know, what is your thoughts on that? Or like, I'm sure you guys have had these conversations before. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think you want to talk?
No, you go first.
Oh, okay. I think for me, and this is what I tell folks because I coach other folks on their non-monogamous journeys. Ultimately, you just have to accept that possibility, right? And then you also have to remember that even in monogamy, there are things outside of your control. Like even in a monogamous relationship, yeah, your partner could leave you for somebody else. That's still an option. Your partner could just decide they don't want to be with you anymore. Your partner could, I don't know, pass away. Like there's lots of things that could happen where that same outcome is there. So I say that first of all, like, Okay. But then second of all, and I think I might have said this the first time we chatted a long time ago, is you have to trust that you love your partner so much that wouldn't you want that for them? Like if Daniel met a woman that was a better fit for him than I am, like, whoa, because we're a good fit.
Yeah.
So like if that,
I haven't said that to myself, by the way.
well, this is where I mean,
You said you haven't? Yeah, he's like, no, bitch.
No.
You're mine.
and I mean,
For the record, I would not be happy for you.
Feelings not the same.
well, that's fine.
I aspire to it, though.
You
I aspire to
and
it.
I think that's good. And I mean, am I all the way there? Like if it were to happen tomorrow, would I would just be completely okay with it? Of course not. But I think in like my most highest self and who I want to be, that's what I would want for you. I want you to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I love you so much. I want your ultimate happiness. And if that means being with somebody else, then that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the can of worms that you're electing to open up is also like unraveling all of that. Yeah, your partner's going to sleep with other people. Like, yeah, they're going to be swept up in kind of a new relationship energy with somebody else. And like, you're going to have moments of like truly terrifying insecurity, but also like what else is in that can of worms are like all of the other things that you suppress in your self-expression. Like all of the other things that like, I mean, one of the things that an early experience in our non-monogamy, or like when you had your more extended relationship, is that really taught me about like my own sense of like judgment with creativity in like the way in which I'm kind of a hater. And I like have just like, or had been, and stifled my own creativity because of that. I stifled your creativity because of that. But like, that was a can of worms that we opened that was like on the surface, it's about her sleeping with somebody else and having a relationship with somebody else. But actually by getting in there, I also found that other thing at the bottom of it. And, which to me is
There's lots on the bottom.
100, like, yeah, there's lots on the bottom. There's like, whatever you find, if you move through it, your relationship is most likely going to be better served. Like it's going to serve your relationship better for it if you can get through it.
If you can get through it.
If you can get through it.
The way you just dissected the can of worms.
You just broke that shit down.
I don't know, like I feel like I'm getting emotional. My eyes are watering. I'm like, am I gonna cry?
I'm feeling like, wow, this
Sorry,
is beautiful.
I'm kind of a cloudy boy these days.
No,
I'm
no,
a
but
cloudy
like-
boy Daniel right now.
What is cloudy boy? I like him. I don't know what that means, but
I think that's so beautiful. And really thinking about it that way. That like, yeah, if you open up those can of worms, but yeah, shit might happen, but you might learn some other shit that has nothing even to do with that person. And it has everything to do with you, and hopefully like your like the journey and like the expression of who you are at your most authentic self.
Yeah,
Like-
and that I think that's been. Did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, you go first and then me. Yeah.
With this past connection that Daniel had, I told you it was like the most intense one he's had so far, and it brought up a lot for me. And the intensity of the can of worms, so to speak, was like it was so intense. And I had my first nervous breakdown, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, I had my first nervous breakdown, and you also had a nervous breakdown, like a week later or before or days.
I can't remember which nervous breakdown.
which one are you speaking of?
I can remember a couple.
No. But in that week of time, the things that we were able to like discover within ourselves, a lot of it for the first time, like naming it to ourselves for the first time, and then bringing it to each other and being like, oh, look at this thing, it's ugly. and doing that with one another, and then like seeing that we loved each other in spite of those ugly things. That is what brought us to this new level of depth that I feel like we've achieved in the past year. Is really that week, honestly, is like reaching new depths of ugliness and bringing it to each other and being like, oh, you still love me and I still love you.
That's so beautiful.
it is beautiful.
Thanks. I don't know what you're going to say.
It's kind of going back, but
Go ahead.
just about it was just about the question of like, oh, doesn't opening up your marriage open up that can of worms, and saying like, well, underneath that is like some more harmful shit that's actually like, if we wouldn't have been brave enough to kind of open up, and if I wouldn't have been brave enough to at least do the minimal of numbing my emotions through that relationship of yours, like we would not have gotten to that other thing that ultimately would have ended our relationship. Like me, like that, the sort of sense of like judgment and like
you suppressing her art and all the things, being a hater.
Her creative impulses, my creative impulses along with it, like that would have done us in, you know?
Eventually, like that same very thing that you don't acknowledge could eventually be the very
if he didn't open the can of worms, he never would have found that. And then it would have fucked the whole thing up.
It would have, and it probably would have done us in like a much more much slower death in a much more harmful way that we wouldn't have been able to put our finger on.
Right. Like what is this?
It would
I think like in talking about like the stunting of love, you know, it's so relative. It's easy to understand. I mean, for some people to understand that, but I never thought about it in the terms of other things in us that we judge other people and then therefore stunted in ourselves. Like if you're being judgmental towards somebody else for whatever reason it is, whatever reason you justify it, because we all do it, then in reality you're holding yourself in that same capacity, and so it's also stunting, though, like you said, creativity. You know, I'm hating on what I think is weird creative shit you're doing over there, but in fact, like because I'm judging you, I'm limiting the things that I'm creating because I'm judging. The judgment is there, period, because I think it has to be this level of cool to be executed or whatever the fuck. And that was like such a beautiful way of putting that, because first of all, it's hard for anyone to be like, oh, this is the part of me that's ugly. And then you're right. It's always about acceptance. Are you still going to love me after I if I'm willing to dig towards it and then I figure it out, are you still going to love me and keep me? Or are you going to want to run? I think everyone really, there's always a lot like level of fear of abandonment.
Oh, entirely. And I think the amount of healing though, that you do when you like, the amount of healing that you do when you are able to get to that point is so deep. It's so deep when you're like, oh my God, this thing that I don't even want to say to myself, and I said it, and now I'm saying it to you, and you still love me. Like that is the best feeling.
It's so intimate.
It's so intimate.
It's like the most intimacy I feel like that you can really have when you can do that with someone.
Yeah. And as I said, I feel like we've reached new levels of vulnerability recently because of that.
So is that relationship over, and like how does that even work? Like do you actually meet each other, hang out with one another? Like do you have like these rules in how
we're learning what we want for that. Is that not what you were going to say?
That's not what I was going to say. Maybe you're learning. No, I think it's been different for each person. Once again, like it's different for each person. Right?
I don't think that's different from what I said. Come on now.
You said we're learning.
I know. Like, you try it this way with this connection, this way with this connection.
Well, I
Look
interpreted that very
differently.
Look at our great open marriage. No, I think what we prefer is a more... I think what I prefer in an ideal situation is a level of friendliness for sure. And like we've definitely had some of Daniel's girlfriends like over like often and like hanging out, the three of us with the kids running around, or like we like before the pandemic we enjoyed hosting a lot. So we'd have, you know, I remember one brunch we had like two of your girlfriends that were there and like hanging around one of my play partners, and like everyone's just kind of there like chilling, and it's not a big deal. Like I think that's definitely my preference. But with this last connection that Daniel had, because it was the most I'd ever been triggered, I found that I was a little more like nervous or hesitant to get to know her. So I think it just depends on each connection, but I think we do have a way that we prefer it, but it also is like contextual a bit.
Yeah. And I think when I said that we're still kind of learning, I think every connection teaches you that like
the boundaries.
This wasn't my favorite aspect of that. This wasn't my favorite aspect of that. So
even though you were kind of triggered by that relationship and by her, and so it kind of made you less like, eventually did being around her more often like kind of make it more comfortable, or did you just kind of avoid it altogether?
Well, she was really, her schedules made it difficult. So that was kind of the main thing. It was just like, she was a mom as well, so she was busy. And then it was also on the shorter side. Like it was kind of a hot, fast, but short connection for Daniel, which is so we didn't have a lot of time. I think it would have gone that way, but it didn't. Yeah,
it was just incompatible seasons in our individual kind of family lives. Yeah, is what it. Yeah.
How do you, being both of you being parents, obviously, because you have kids together. You both are parents.
I think that's how that works.
Very peculiar. How do you navigate with that? Like, as far as like, I know your kids are really young, but eventually they'll be older. Like, have you thought about that and how?
Yeah, we have. The way that we like to conduct our friendships is also kind of like how you talked about how you conduct your friendships, Jamila. Like, we are really affectionate with our friends, and we have kind of like an open door policy with a lot of our friends where people just like pop in and they're over and we're all hanging out. And I think that the way that we think about it is we hope that our relationships that are people that we're purely platonic with versus people that we're maybe fucking or people that we're romantic with, that's not really distinguishable to our kids. Right. So like there's no reason to be so explicit or forthcoming to them with like, oh, this is my boyfriend who I fuck, and like this is my boyfriend who I don't fuck. Like,
but there's a weird sexual energy there, like that,
It's like they don't
know him,
don't,
that's your dad.
Yeah, exactly. it's like they don't need to know that, and I think that actually there's other polyamorous influencers on the gram that in my opinion, they do too much with that. Like, your kids don't need to know all the details of your life until they ask, until they're ready to know. Right. It needs to be developmentally appropriate, or else you're actually doing more harm and giving them anxiety. Right. they don't need to know that their parents are non-monogamous when they're in kindergarten and go to school and like let their friends know, and then like that does not need to happen. Right. So I think the way we're handling it is just trusting that because we're fostering a really open communication line with them, that if they have questions, when they're ready, they'll ask, and then we'll be ready to answer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, just in the same way that you don't feel the need to define your other relationships in front of your kids or to your kids, like, or your other friendships, thinking about it the same way. And I think even asking the question of like, oh, well, how do you explain this to your parents or to your kids is almost like a symptom of the way in which we put like sexual romantic relationships like really high, like as like at the top of the hierarchy, right?
In relationships.
In terms of relationships, right? And so once it's escalated to a certain degree of importance, then you have to say something about it. But if you're trying to do away with that,
which we're trying
sort
to
of
do.
Hierarchy, and it just, I don't know, it just makes it less necessary.
Right. It's all love. I love you. They love me. We're friends.
Totally.
This is how our friendships work. Yeah. Okay. So in the hierarchy, like trying to do away with the hierarchy of like your romantic relationship is at the highest. Like, I know there's been these memes circulating right now, or like these, whatever, the fucking internet. And it's like, would you choose your wife or your kids? And I'm like, why is that a question? Like, I'm always choosing my wife because God said. I'm like, I don't understand what wife is asking.
What meme is this?
I've not seen that.
What algorithm are you on?
Exactly.
I see all these weird memes where they're like asking, like, do you feed the man of the house first, or do you feed the kids? I'm like, why are we? I was like, why do we have to choose? Like, and why? And then everyone's applauding him like for choosing the wife in the comments. I'm like, this is really fucking weird. But like, and those are things we don't really question in our society. Like, why is it that like if your girl your girl needs you, but her man needs her, she's out, and it's my man, I gotta go. But like in a marriage, I think that's another thing, because this is something that's a trigger for me. Like, I want to be the most important. And so if I call you, you answer. 2 rings. But then I have to ask myself, what the fuck is wrong with me? I need to be the princess. It's me. And she also needs to know that I am the main one, and I'm cool with her. We're cool, but I'm a number one. And it's just like, I don't know where that comes from either, but are there limits? Because I know you said you're not necessarily like polyamorous. You might have like, and it could be an intentional, like just sexually driven, like one-off or whatever. But are there limits because you guys are primary partners? Obviously, you live together, you have kids together. Is there like, if you meet a lover and it just goes on for an extended amount of time, and like, is that okay with you on both ends?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Indefinite.
And I think we've kind of bridged this before on like a minor level because we didn't have kids before. But I was in a 3-year relationship, and then I got pregnant with Daniel's child. We were very careful about that.
We gotta be clear.
just to be clear.
I have questions about that too.
Yeah.
I have questions about
That's understandable. But, and then it was like, oh, I'm gonna be a mom soon. What does this mean for you, boyfriend? I don't know. And also like we had to have those conversations. It's like, oh, are we going to be co-parenting? Like, are you interested in kind of co-parenting? Like, so those conversations were like starting to maybe be on deck, but then we ended up mutually ending the relationship before the baby came, which made the best sense at that time. For us.
how far along were you before you ended the relationship?
It was pretty soon. I think I was like 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Yeah, it was time. It was a good run. But I think that we're open to kind of what non-monogamy brings us, and thus far every challenge has only deepened our relationship. So I think the way that I look at it is the same way. Like if Daniel meets someone that he's really enjoying, and then he's actually wanting to negotiate, like, hey, I'd actually like to kind of maybe spend 3 nights a week at her house and like kind of split my time a little bit. Like I can imagine scenarios like that in the future. And I think that it's all very much like as we go. Like I think our intention, very much so, our intention is to raise our children together in a home where we both are living. Like that's definitely our intention, but life can throw curveballs. And I think once our children are out of the house, or at least older, I think that might bring another shift to our non-monogamy. If we're still non-monogamous, we're also open to seasons of monogamy if that feels right too. I think mostly it's just a posture of openness to what will be, and trusting that we'll know how to handle it.
I mean, I think that's the most beautiful thing of all, right? It's like we talked about before, like you can be monogamous, you can be traditionally married, and still, shit can pop off. Someone can leave you, things can happen, and you had no idea that they were coming, which I think, truthfully, in all honesty, if we were honest, that is generally what people are caught off guard by and angry about. How could you not tell me? How I thought I trusted you. We had an agreement, right? It's not like, I think if I feel comfortable enough to be like, wow, I'm really falling in love with this person, and it doesn't make, because I think we also have the understanding that if I'm in love with you, I can't also love someone else, right? That would have to take away the love from you and give it to someone else. Not that I can love this person so much and I can also still love you so much. It's just like, I think people are limited in their thinking that way. And so I'm always curious about that, because, is it something that can maintain, or are you always asking the third person to kind of be a temporary fix in your relationship, which I have an issue with. Like, I don't know, it goes both ways. You just heard me. I'm totally bipolar. I'm like, I'm the most important. Also, love whoever you want. Grow, be free. Not really, come back. So I think that's, something I've had to think about.
I have a question about how you navigate safety and in your relationship. I think that's something that I think a lot of people wonder in open relationships. Like, do you have certain rules on protection and
or not protection after a certain amount of time, or what does that look like?
No, we always use protection, and I think that there's actually statistics that non-monogamous folks have less STIs than monogamous folks, because in non-monogamous communities, that conversation is always up front, and people have more people to protect. So you have a sense of responsibility to each other. Where it's actually, in my experience, like dating non-monogamous men and sleeping with non-monogamous men is always more pleasant in that way because they're always more careful. They're always ready to be careful.
Right.
Because they have responsibility.
Ready to initiate that conversation.
Yeah,
too.
right.
Yeah.
Versus, your average male.
And like, how do you meet people? Like, are you on dating apps or do you?
Dating apps has been it mostly.
Well,
yeah,
especially like
in the pandemic
in the
times.
pandemic time.
And are you just, is it like on your dating profile? Like, this is what it is.
Yeah,
so that there's no,
certain-
we're getting straight to the point here.
Yeah, certain dating apps are more friendly too. OkCupid has like a non-monogamy setting. You can
Really?
and you
Okay,
can you could actually link it with your partner, so
Oh.
people can like click on your partner's profile and see them.
That's like Field too.
And Field, yeah, Field. We've used Field a little bit as well.
Because you guys don't generally like date together. You don't play together. Is that something you guys have explored or no?
We have, but it's not. I guess it's not exactly our
I
preference.
think
we have new frontiers
due
ahead
for a
of us,
se-
where we're
due for a
excited about
season.
Due for a
it.
season?
We're
Yeah,
due
I
for a
think it's
season
more
of that.
about having kids that's really limited that aspect because we like being home with our babies and they're babies, so they're needy. So it's not like we both can just leave.
Right, somebody has
often.
to stay with the kids.
Exactly. So I think that's what has made that part not as easy.
realistic.
Realistic.
I think
yeah,
that's
but
like
we're
a lot of
definitely
the big
open to it.
misconception too, is that like people who are non-monogamous are just like having orgies every day, every
Yeah.
weekend. Oh yeah, they're in there. You and your partner must be having threesomes all the time.
Yeah.
And what I find often is that people that are in monogamous relationships often play separately, and they're
Yeah.
not. Some have never even done it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's been almost exclusively separate for us.
Yeah.
So
We
and I
just
think-
had our first experience this past summer together, right?
How was it?
It was great. It was super fun. It was perfect. The perfect first experience.
Yeah, we had that was another situation where it's like, okay, we've got childcare and it runs out at this time. So that also changes how it feels and the dynamics of it, but it also in a
Can't
way
be as relaxed.
It's more planned.
Yeah.
I've definitely played a threesome or 5.
yeah.
Like yes, like I have got to be out by 4. Let's meet at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The last one I did, Lena was asleep. And then I got out. I took her to school the next day. I was like, so happy she didn't wake up.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
Don't judge me, guys. She was asleep. I don't know. I'm high, so I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I don't know. I think I don't know. I could talk to you guys for hours, honestly. I could ask you 1,000,000 more questions. I know we've gone all over the place.
Yeah.
But maybe like one final question I want to ask you guys is like, what would you tell the non-monogamous version of yourself, like when you first started this journey, now? As someone who's been on this journey for a really long time now, and it's still obviously the journey is continues. But like, what would you tell her? What would you tell him?
Go ahead.
No, you first.
You first.
She's like, I need to think.
Yeah, I do.
Apart from buckle up.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of what came to mind for me too. I don't know. This isn't probably like the answer you're looking for, but for
I'm not looking for any answer.
Okay.
So I genuinely just want to
But
know.
honestly, for me, I just feel really proud that I knew that it's what I wanted 10 years ago. Like I feel really proud of that because I've been really right. Like it's felt so authentic and really affirming that the journey has gone the way it has. It has not been easy. Oh my God, it's not been easy. It's been very, very hard, but just so rewarding. So I think I would just tell myself, like, you know what you want. You know what you want, and like trust it, even if it's scary. Be brave. And yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think what you said at the beginning of it, or at the end there, like that, be brave. I wish I would have been braver from the outset. I think been braver to kind of face like the reality of what it was I was experiencing when like I was at home and you were out, you know, brave enough to let I don't know, the people that I saw or the people that I dated see something other than just like the polished, like charismatic first date Daniel, you know, and see something like beneath that. Yeah, I think I would have told myself to, you're already doing this
braver.
anyway. Like, be braver and more honest about it.
That's nice.
You know, I have a question for you, Daniel, because I know like the first time you came on our show, you had, I think your first baby was still pretty small, and I remember you discussing that, you know, for the first like 3 or 4 months of that pregnancy, that you had still had a boyfriend, and like for you, how was that? Because I think that is like for the male ego. Let's be real, like that's the ultimate, you know. You're mine, and you got my baby in you.
Yeah, yeah. Do you really want to pick at that scab? Because it's like, no. I mean, no, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No,
I've gotten more bold. I don't think we really went
think,
deep about this last time, but now I'm bolder.
Yeah, no,
She's got a question.
think
She's not high anymore, guys.
it was not. I think I was trying to put myself in a more emotionally evolved space with that, you know, and not react out of like that space of like possessiveness and toxicity and like all of that. But the reality is I still felt that kind of like visceral nervous system response to it.
How did you combat that?
Oof,
Like,
alcohol. No, that's probably
A little bit true.
A little bit true. It's probably a little bit true. Yeah, I think that there, like, you know, Brianna said a second ago, it's been a huge challenge, and it's been a lot of hard work. And I think, like, yeah, there have been a million things that I've just kind of, like, especially early on, that I was like, okay, be a more evolved version of yourself, be a more evolved version.
But you didn't want to do the work that it took to actually get there.
Arrive there.
You're like, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm fine.
I'm buckled up. Like,
I'm a feminist, okay?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And to be fair, and to give you some credit, like, I think that I was doing that to some extent too, because you had not given me the experience yet of like really having to do the work, which came with this last connection. I think that this really humbled me, where I was just like, oh my God, I thought this was going to feel a lot easier, and I had to go through that same process. So I just want to give you some credit.
Thanks.
And I think, sorry, listening to you talk right now is just making me feel like I need to explain that you were really signaling that, because I was trusting when you said you were okay, that you were okay. Because I feel like that frames me as like, I'm out. Sorry, you're drinking your problems away. It wasn't really like that.
Yeah, to be fair, I was drinking pretty heavily before then too. So
Stop.
I mean, we've all suppressed some shit.
But point is I think that in this latest rendition of our non-monogamy, we've really learned how to be honest, completely honest, in a way that requires vulnerability, and in a way that really allows us to connect. And that's kind of what I thought we would say today.
Yeah.
And that hits on that too, because I think before we weren't able, or you weren't able, I wasn't either, I guess, to completely be honest. And with that, I think brought a lot of those challenges.
Yeah.
The drinking.
Yeah, no, you did, like, to be fair, you gave me opportunities. You gave me opportunities to actually say how I felt about it. You gave me opportunities to set boundaries. But I don't know. I think I found that it was easier to kind of numb yourself and like pretend you're a more evolved version of yourself than you actually are. And eventually that word comes back to you.
Did you become resentful?
I'm kind of I'm a resentment prone person. So,
so yes.
No, yeah. No, I think so. Yeah, a little bit. I'm
asking you so many questions because I'm so, I don't know. I'm so intrigued by your level of maturity and your ability to, I mean, like, obviously you're being honest. Like, there was a time I was I was acting rational, but I wasn't feeling that way, and I wasn't being vulnerable, and I wasn't really utilizing the space to be like, this is how I honestly feel. So I just feel like so many men miss this, you know, like
Entirely.
so many men miss this part. They're like, yeah, I want an open relationship. I want to fuck, you know, and then like when the tables are turned, it's like having to dissect your own toxic masculinity and like those feelings of like, oh, I'm a man, hear me roar, I think is like, men might need a step-by-step play on like, yeah, there are things that benefit you guys in the patriarchy, that, you know, ownership of your body, and that like women don't have, are not empowered to do, or don't feel supported specifically by their partners and by their men to feel free and like, you know, fulfilling their fantasies and like fulfilling, you know, saying, yeah, these are my fantasies, or this is what I want. I may want to sleep with someone else, it has nothing to do with you, but you know, I always wonder, where are the men who get it, you know, who are willing to admit that these issues are so much
they got to do the work. They got to have these conversations. They have to find the language to say how they feel, and sometimes that takes time. Sometimes that takes facing shit. Like if you don't even know how to express how you feel, and then on top of it, I'm assuming maybe even feel shame that you feel this way because she doesn't. Like, damn, is she more evolved than me? Why can't I feel like that? Like, why can't I show up like that? What's wrong with me? You know, I know I felt like that in relationships in the past, not even around monogamy, just in general, in other ways, and other thought processes. And I'm like, damn, they're so evolved. Why the fuck can't I be that way? Am I like, you know? So I think there's like shame that goes along with that, and being a man. I'm not a man. I don't know. I'm just saying what I think, but there I think at least having these type of conversations, and I'm so grateful that you guys came and shared, you know, your story with us, and you know, your journey in this space, but that these are the kind of conversations that need to happen. These are the kind of conversations that men need to hear, that women need to hear, that married people need to hear, that people that are listening to this at the beginning of this episode and said, what the fuck is this shit? Oh, hell no. And now we're like, huh.
Yeah. You're like, damn, do I feel like I own my wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did I buy her, or is she mine? Did I put a value on her?
I did pay for that wedding.
Did I want to lock her in the basement, or should she be free to roam? I don't know. It's true. Daniel's so smart. Damn.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is important to note once again, like I think you've used the word time, and this is really, it's taken a lot of time to get where we're at. It's been 12 years of unraveling, and I think for men that unraveling goes a lot deeper. Yeah. And so I'm excited for Daniel to eventually work more with me as I coach folks on the particular challenges that men face. That I think that'll be really fun.
Oh my God, you guys are going to be like a power couple.
I think so.
Healing couples everywhere you go.
I love that. It's inspiring. It really is. It's like there's hope in the male race. Amen. Hallelujah.
Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so happy that you guys came all the way to the valley to hang out with us.
I know, it's always so nice to see you.
Can you tell us, like, where can people find your coaching programs? How can they find you guys?
Yeah, so Daniel does not have any socials at the moment, but that may change.
I don't blame you, Daniel.
Like,
no, it's nice. I'm jealous, honestly. But you can find me on Instagram at Baeleche _ because Instagram keeps deleting my account, so I keep having to make new versions of Baeleche. So Baeleche _ and my website is baeleche.com. You can find me.
Awesome.
There.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, the leches.
The leches.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you guys.
That needs to be your group website, like the leches.
The leches.
And we'll make sure to link all their information in the episode description. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, goodmoms _ bad choices. Follow us on Patreon. We just released an episode over there. And we're talking about, you know, all the good things, gangbangs and love and grandfathers, you know, basic shit.
Open
It's a great trio.
Yeah. Very deep.
Very deep, very sexy. Patreon.com / goodmoms bad choices.
Don't forget to take care of yourself and love yourself.
Date yourself. I hope you guys are taking yourself on dates, spending time with yourself this month. We are really focusing on self-love and doing all that stuff. So we're always fucking focusing on
even
that
if
shit,
you're in a
but-
relationship, even if you're married, I think this is a really good example of showing up for yourself and being honest about with your partner is really serving yourself and loving yourself. There's so many ways to love on yourself, and even in relationship, I think it's really important that you maintain that, as you can see.
Amen, Chica. Anyway, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.